none of them are here, so I can say this. Nature always wins. The issue for sustainability in Seattle, every 10 million years, Seattle is under 3,000 feet of ice. What does that mean for sustaining the city of Seattle? I mean, there's all sorts of issues here. When the big subduction quake comes, there aren't any codes we have in place that will allow us to withstand that. The issue of Homeland Security is another thing altogether. And how long this era is going to last, that relates to our foreign policy, a variety of other things, but the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people afraid, and that we have a federal government that to some degree is trying to protect us and also trying, in my view, political editorial, trying to take advantage of the fact that everybody's afraid. And as we do this waterfront, whether it's the cruise ship terminal or the ferries and all that sort of stuff, the issue for Homeland Security is going to be not only just privacy, but also speed. One of the ways that you affect Homeland Security is by slowing down the process so people can be checked more thoroughly. And as we're thinking about our transportation systems, that sort of stuff, you have to try to predict what that's going to mean in terms of the movement of people back and forth.
One just quick final question, and then we got to close.
Well, sorry, but it's not going to be a real quick one. My first question is, are the panel members part of our design process in the future? Or are they just down here giving us their insight?
I think the latter.
Okay.
The latter.
Because my next question was, who is let's see, what was the title of Gordon? The infrastructure transportation expert for this design.
I don't think it's been identified. It's too early in the process for that.
Okay, so we don't know that yet.
Correct.
Because the only people that I see on here that's for transportation in this booklet is the Seattle Department of Transportation. And the viaduct, if I'm not mistaken, is a state highway. So I don't see Washington State DOT being listed. I'm assuming they will be involved in the future. So I'm not sure if my comments have any relevance to the panel, and maybe I just need to hold them until we start actively getting into the planning stage. But what I'm not hearing in a lot of this stuff is we're still not focusing on transportation.
I gotta cut you out there, unfortunately, because we got to get out of this room. John, you can talk to John about who's involved with transportation in the process, and again, I apologize for that. Please join me in thanking our panelists and Michael. A couple closings before we go. Don't get up yet. You can do it in the transition here. I want to bring to the podium Richard Conlin from the Seattle City Council. There's hardly anyone at City Hall who cares more about planning. He shepherded 39 neighborhood plans through the city process to full adoption by the council, and he has a few words for us today. Richard Conlin.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. The number of plans keeps growing. It's really 38, I believe, but sometimes it's hard to keep count. When I look at this audience, it's very impressive to me to see you all here today, because I think what you're exemplifying is a very deep Seattle value. And that deep Seattle value is our commitment to civic engagement and participatory design. Now, the interesting thing about that is that it's in conflict with one of our other deep Seattle values, which is to get out and enjoy the sun and the sky while we have it. But what you are doing in this panel, or in this process, is helping to plan a way in which others will be able to do that for many years into the future. And I want to just start by saying that I really appreciate the commitment that all of you have shown by being here today, and the level of engagement and involvement that demonstrates. Thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate that very much. I also appreciate very much the work of the panel and the designers and all those who have put this together. We are finding, I think, that we are entering the first step in a new stage of a long journey. As has been amply pointed out, there is a history to this waterfront, and that history counts. We have a lot of processes that have gone on in the past. We have a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of commitment and thinking that has gone into where the waterfront has been and where it is right now. What we are doing right now is trying to shape the new history for the waterfront. Now, I'm not going to talk about the specific issues and the specific visions that we might want to engage in. We've had a wonderful display of some great ideas, some great visions, great possibilities for us, and principles that we should be thinking about as we look at that. What I want to talk about is how do we get there? And what I think it's important, and I think it's really been amply recognized by the Commission and the Design Commission, is that in Seattle, a vision isn't enough. A vision has to be shared for it to come into being. And when I think about the people who are going to be involved in bringing whatever we do on the waterfront into being, I think there are three kinds of actors. The first are those who have the resources, the tools, or the authority to actually make things happen. And many of you are here today, and it's wonderful to have you here. The developers, the government officials, the architects, the people who really know what we can do and how to make things happen on the waterfront. It is very important that we engage all the others who have the potential to do that and make sure that they also are included as we move forward with these ideas. Now, the second group of people who need to be involved are what I would call the other people who are here, public citizens. Those of you who may not be in one of those positions of power, authority, or responsibility, but who have a deep commitment to the vision of this city and to a vision of the future. It's wonderful to have you here. I know there are many others of you around the community, and we again need to make sure that all of those people who really have been engaged in this process and can be engaged in the future are engaged. Finally, there's a third group, and that is the citizenry of Seattle and the region. And what I want to focus on is the fact that it is extraordinarily important that we bring this third group in. And why is that? Well, I'll give you three reasons. There's always three reasons. But I'll give you three reasons why I think it's important. The first reason is because it matters to everyone in this region. We are in the process of putting something together that is going to shape our future for the 21st century and potentially beyond. It's a huge undertaking, a huge set of projects, a huge set of visions, a huge potential design concept. And it's going to matter to everybody in this city and this region. They have the right to be involved. The second thing is that we need the collective wisdom of our entire population in order to bring about good planning. You know, there's an old saying that none of us is as smart as all of us, and I think that's true. And I think we are going to have to remember that
I can't start before. Otherwise somebody might come in underinformed. We wouldn't want that to happen. We want all our public to be fully informed.
Bear with us.
Yeah, you just have to wait for the clock to crawl along. I think we've actually arrived. I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. Bob, are you ready for me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is David Van Hold. I'm the manager of the Account Executive Office at Seattle City Light, and I have the pleasure to be your master of ceremonies tonight in what is a regulatory, in effect, I guess I shouldn't say it's a regulatory meeting. It is an official public input meeting for a process associated with the Energy Policy Act of 2005, the element of that which has to do with Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act amendments. So some of these are fairly long acronyms, and at this point forward, I'm just going to sort of lay out a couple acronyms. One of them will be EPACT. EPACT 05, or EPACT, is the Energy Policy Act of 2005, which is the first significant national energy legislation in quite some time. I don't even remember how long, but I'm guessing maybe 1999. Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act is an older piece of legislation, which I'll get into a little bit, in a little bit forward. But it is being amended as a part of the Energy Policy Act, and we're looking at getting public input on certain elements of that. Since there's only 3 of us here today at this point, I'll welcome questions as we go. I think that's fine. Rather than being formal, if there were large groups, we might have to be careful. I do think that our broadcaster with the Seattle channel, Bob, would appreciate if you have a question, you raise your hand, and someone, I guess Paul Lashover will take the mic to you. I'm going to introduce the people here that are involved in this process. As I said, I'm David Van Hold. This is Lisa Rennie, who is involved in our public regulatory issues. Yeah, public affairs. And Linda Lockwood, who is involved in elements of what we'll describe later, smart metering. She also works in the account executive office. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started on the content at hand. Here's a quick agenda for this meeting. We're going to describe to you a little bit what Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act standards are. Then we're going to get down into the meat of the matter, what is called smart metering and time-based rates. These are issues that the current amendment to PURPA is addressing. We're going to go on to interconnection, and I'll note right here that for the purposes of this discussion, interconnection has to do with small generator interconnection, is not large generator interconnection. Fuel diversity, and we'll touch on fuel diversity, fossil fuel generation efficiency, and net metering. The reason that we will only touch on those issues will become clear as we get further into the presentation, and then we'll invite questions and discussions. As I said, given the small size of the audience, I think I would welcome a question through the process because I think it won't be too disruptive. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is to lay out for the audience and the public in general what PURPA standards are. The Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act was passed in Congress in 1978. It originally included 6 federal standards. In some, and you can read the bullet points yourself, the goals were to encourage conservation of energy as supplied by electric utilities, optimization of the efficiency of use of facilities and resources by utilities, and equitable rates to electric consumers. In essence, this act was an early attempt to do what might have been considered national reform on certain utility regulatory policies, and it was directed and still is directed at attempting to enforce equity and access on the part of the public to utility rates and some processes. That's my interpretation, but it's probably fairly accurate. Excuse me?
Did you want me to go through this part? Did you want me to cover this part?
If you'd like to. Would you like to? I didn't know I didn't know where my I honestly didn't know where my beginning introduction part would be. What's that?
We should have talked about that.
Okay.
I can if you want.
Go ahead. I invite Lisa Rennie to maybe speak more on this issue from here forward.
Just quickly, I think if you're here tonight, you probably already are very familiar with PURPA, what PURPA means, and kind of what our process is and our purpose is tonight. But just to make sure that we're all starting at the same place, we just wanted to go over some of the basics, which David's already started. And as he's alluded to and mentioned already, that the Energy Policy Act of 2005 amended PURPA. It wasn't the first time it's been amended. It was amended in 1992 under the Energy Policy Act of 92. And then the original act had 6 standards, which Linda's going to talk about in a little more detail, that really had to do primarily with rate design, rate determination and design. But right now, the amendments to PURPA, and again, the Energy Policy Act of 2005 was a huge piece of legislation. It was over 1,700 pages, very wide-ranging, very complex, but this is an important piece of it, and it really is saying that state regulators, state utility commissions and certain public utilities, or certain all utilities, non-regulated utilities of a certain size, those that have total annual sales over 500, that exceed 500 million kilowatt hours, need to do a consideration of these 5 new standards and a determination within a certain time frame. I think we probably need to move ahead. So the 5 standards, new standards under consideration are net metering, fuel sources, fossil fuel generation efficiency, smart metering, and interconnection. PURPA does not require the adoption of these standards. What it requires is for the state regulator or the utility to consider them and make a determination in the time frame, which the same time frame doesn't apply to all 5 standards. For smart metering and interconnection, you have to be in consideration by August 8th of '06, which we have done, and complete the process by August 8th of 2007. The remaining standards, you begin consideration by August 8th of 2007 and complete consideration by August 8th of 2008. City Light is considering all 5 standards at once, and with the intent of completing the process by the August 8th 07 deadline. So, next slide. Just a little bit more on procedural requirements, what utilities are required to do. Again, purpose says that a utility shall consider each standard and then make a determination concerning whether or not it's appropriate to implement the standard. It goes on to say that nothing prohibits any electric utility from making any determination that it's not appropriate to implement any such standard. But in doing so, whether making a determination to adopt or not adopt PURPA is very specific on how you have to go through the process, and that's what we're commencing tonight, and that is, hold a public hearing with advance notice, issue a written decision which explains the basis for the determination, cite your findings, and the evidence developed from the public hearing. So we're very glad you're here with us tonight because your input is really very critical to our process. And then make a written decision available to the public. And another consideration just to keep in mind as we go through this is prior state action. And PURPA provides that the requirement to consider is waived or, in a sense, grandfathered if a state has taken prior action, and that's in one of 3 ways: that the state has implemented the standard or comparable standard, that the state commission or utility has conducted a proceeding considering the implementation of the standard or a comparable standard, or if the state...
Kickoff is 5 p.m. It's for the kids.
Oh, you know he's going to throw it. He's wide open, and he catches
So
it.
be there for Bacon Bowl 21, October 23rd in the Kingdome. Kickoff is 5 p.m. It's for the kids.
Really nicely designed formation. Plenty of time. This is Fish. Up the left side. He's got plenty of room. He's going up the middle. Breaking tackles left and right. He's in.
Welcome back. Joining me in the studio is Seattle Chief of Police Norm Stamper. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
And once again, if you have any questions or you'd like to comment on the show, feel free to call us at 684-8828. So, Norm, what kind of things are the Seattle Police Department doing for youth and to work with youth?
Well, I think you've already seen in tonight's episode of Beyond the Badge, we've seen officers working in gangs and school emphasis and so forth. Certainly our Seattle Team for Youth. Those are all good programs. We also have something called Options, Choices, and Consequences that deals with gun violence. So we're talking to youth in the school setting to actually convey to them the dangers that are associated with firearms. But we have lots of other programs. I have a youth advisory council now that I'm very pleased to say is starting off very successfully. And I think your presence on this show is another example of how we're attempting to integrate youth into everything that we do.
Okay, what more do you think could be done for youth?
Well, we have a youth academy. It's like a citizens academy. It's where young people have an opportunity to actually go through a program that's a very abbreviated program of what we actually give our police officers. So they get a fairly good understanding of what it might mean to be a police officer. But I think we also need to do a lot more talking.
So if you worked with youth directly, do you know what you'd say to them, or do you know any words that you would give them, or how you would relate to them, things you could say? how would you deal with youth?
Well, are you talking about the youth-police relationship?
Yeah, to improve that relationship.
Yeah. Well, that I have said many times, and I probably should repeat here, that's one of the toughest of all the relationships that we have with members of our community. It was a struggle for me, for example, to help create this Youth Advisory Council, this group of young people who meet with me on a regular basis to talk to me about what they see as strains or tensions in the relationship between police and young people. So what we're attempting to do right now is encourage our officers to be patient, to be friendly, to be direct with young people, and especially if young people are engaged in activities that are dangerous to them, to do what they need to do as police officers, but to do that respectfully. There's another thing that we might want to talk about. Johnny Cochran, whose name is probably familiar to most of our viewers, was one of the principal members of the so-called O.J. Simpson Dream Team, very respected attorney in the African American community and beyond. He was in town not too long ago, and one of the things that he said to young people at a youth and law forum at First AME Church was, you know, if you have a difficulty with a police officer, my suggestion to you, and he says, in fact, I make this a demand. My demand of you is that you behave respectfully with that police officer, and then if you don't like the way the officer has treated you, after that, you call the police department, or you call me, he said, as an attorney, and we'll take it from there. But don't do it when you're actually having the contact with a police officer. So both sides, I think, can do a lot to improve the relationship.
Okay, so coming back to the youth problem, do you know why it might appear that youth are being harassed by the police?
I think there are a number of reasons for that, and let me just acknowledge that many youth believe that that is the case. And for some, I guess I'm a 55-year-old man now, but even at my age, I can remember what it was like to be young, to be your age, for example. And one of the things that I remember about being a youth was that I was challenging and questioning authority. It was kind of my own way of becoming an adult, was to move from childhood to adolescence and then to adulthood. And one of the steps that we take, I think, is to challenge authority. And cops, police officers, are very visible symbols of authority. The uniform, the badge, the car. And so there's sort of natural tension that's built in there. But there are also times when young people are involved in activities that do bring them to the attention of the police. I think the key really to all of this is we talk more together when we're not in an enforcement situation so that we can get to know each other as people.
Okay, and in order to improve the relationship between police and youth, do you know how youth could become more involved in what police do?
Yes, I know a lot of ways that youth can become more involved. They can volunteer to work with us. They can, if they're willing to do it, look at joining my Youth Advisory Council so that, once again, on a regular basis, they'll talk to me. They can sign up for one of our upcoming youth academies, which we run periodically. I would be happy to take any calls from young people who are interested in involvement opportunities with the police. And my number is 684-5577.
So if a young person did have a complaint, would they call you, or would they talk to a police officer, or how would they go about dealing with that?
Well, if they can talk with the police officer in the moment, that's probably the best thing. What we're trying to do is create mutual understanding. Sometimes conflicts arise, and if the two parties to that conflict, might be a uniformed police officer and a young person, can talk it out right there, that's terrific. That's what we'd love to see. If they have a complaint, however, if they believe the police officer has treated them unfairly, then they can certainly call my office, or they can call internal investigations, or they can call their local precinct.
Okay, since you've been chief, would you say that complaints have gone up or down, or how would you say that you've improved relations between youth and police?
Well, complaints have gone down. I'm very happy to hear that. I won't claim the credit for that. I think that's the work of our police officers. We've seen a 2/3 reduction, a very dramatic decrease in citizen complaints about misconduct over the last 5 years.
All right. Thank you, Chief Stamper. I'd like to thank you for joining us on Beyond the Badge. It's all the time we have, so thank you.
Well, that wraps it up for this month's edition of Beyond the Badge. Please look for us next month when we'll bring you information on the upcoming World Trade Organization meeting being held here in Seattle and what SPD is doing to prepare for it. Our neighborhood focus will highlight the South Precinct's South Park neighborhood. Then we'll take a look at the Chiefs Advisory Councils and what you can do to become involved in them. So for all of us here at Beyond the Badge, I'm Detective Steve White, and thanks for tuning in.
Do in society, take pictures, close-up pictures, take fingerprints off of dead bodies, etc. That's not in a normal human's way of life or occupation. So I think it can take its toll over time if you're not dealing with it in a positive manner through the means that we've talked about.
We talked a little earlier about employee assistance programs, and the City of Seattle has one as well for its employees. What are some of the advantages of using an employee assistance program?
Your employee assistance program ideally is going to be keyed to your organization. So Seattle PD has an employee assistance program. Those counselors or therapists should understand police life, what it's like to be an officer, what it's like to be a civilian crime scene technician. Now, if you went to an EAP for CFIRST, they probably would not have that same knowledge base or experience base. So having your own EAP or someone that you exclusively refer to, hopefully those therapists or counselors you're talking with will kind of know the language you're talking.
Okay. What other common themes are there among employees who are dealing with accumulative stress? I would imagine isolation for one thing. Anything else comes to mind?
Isolation would be one. Some other signs or symptoms perhaps of cumulative stress or even acute stress. We're looking really at change. Change in usual behavior. That can be sleeping patterns, it can be eating patterns. Some people, when they're stressed, feel like they can't sleep. Other people feel like they want to sleep around the clock. Some people eat more, others eat less when they're stressed. So those are two of the key things I look for. People also talk about feeling anxious, depressed, confused, irritated. They may think they're developing some memory problems. Usually those are for minor things like where to put my keys, where's my cell phone, did I have an appointment today or not? So those may be some of the ways people feel like that they're experiencing stress they don't know quite how to handle. One other place that it can have an impact is on interpersonal relationships. Stress usually does pretty negative things to relationships. Generally, we don't think of people who are stressed out, so to speak, as having real positive relationships with other people. People who are stressed very often find themselves withdrawing and isolating themselves. So one of the things we do to combat stress is try and make sure those folks have someone to reach out to. Within my agency, we have a peer support team, people who do similar jobs to you, who have some advanced training in how to listen to people, some problem-solving skills, some basic diagnostic skills, as well as a resource line all the way back to me.
Okay, one more question before we go. I'd like to talk back earlier about a subject we briefly discussed was CISM. I understand there's a conference coming to Seattle pretty soon.
Yes, the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation, in conjunction with King County's CISM team, is hosting a conference at CTAC next month. If you'd like more information, they can give me a call.
Great. And if you would like more information about the Critical Incident Stress Management Conference, contact Dr. Clark at his number, area code 360 586-8492. And that's all. We'd like to end this segment with Chris Goff and Crime Stoppers.
Hello, my name's Chris Goff, a detective with the Seattle Police Department. I'm currently assigned to Crime Stoppers at Puget Sound. Crime Stoppers is considered one of the foremost crime-fighting and community partnership programs in the world. Crime Stoppers is a nonprofit organization using volunteers from the community, local media, and law enforcement working together as one crime-fighting unit dedicated to making our community a safe place to live. Here at Crime Stoppers at Puget Sound, we have partnered with local television, radio, and newspapers to advertise crimes and criminals in the hope that citizens know who they are and have them call that information in to us. We make it easy for people to call by offering a regional phone number and a reward. We also guarantee the anonymity of the caller. Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound serves 2.4 million people in King, Kitsap, and Snohomish counties. We're about to show you wanted felons in Seattle. Some are considered dangerous. Please do not attempt to approach or detain any of these people. We ask you call 911 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-CRIME-13.
John Peter Kennedy is a black male, 35 years old. He stands 6 feet 1 inch tall, has brown eyes, black hair, and weighs 195 pounds. Kennedy uses several different names, has scars on his forehead, face, stomach, and right hand. He's wanted by the King County Sheriff's Office for illegal possession of a firearm. No bail is allowed on the warrant, and he is extraditable from all 50 states. Kelly Joe Barnes is a white male, 45 years old. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall, has blue eyes, blonde hair, and weighs 175 pounds. Barnes uses several different names and has scars on his back, left arm, right arm, hand, and leg. He is wanted by the Seattle Police Department for burglary. Bail is set at $35,000 on the warrant, and he is extraditable from all 50 states. Benny Mberhi is a black male, 28 years old. He's 5 feet 7 inches tall with brown eyes, black hair, and weighs 135 pounds. Berhe is also known as Killer B and has a scar on his right eyebrow. Berhe is wanted by the Seattle Police Department for assault. The warrant's bail is set at $250,000, and he's extraditable from all 50 states. Robert Allen Black is a black male, 45 years old. He stands 5 feet 9 inches tall, has brown eyes, black hair, and weighs 145 pounds. Black has noticeable discoloration on both arms. He is wanted by the Seattle Police Department for rape. Bail is set at $25,000, and he is extraditable from all 50 states. Christopher Allen Carpenter is a white male, 29 years old. He stands 6 feet 1 inch tall, has green eyes, brown hair, and weighs 155 pounds. He's missing a finger on his left hand and has tattoos on his back, left arm, and shoulder. The King County Sheriff's Office has a warrant issued for attempt robbery with bail set at $50,000, and he is extraditable from all 50 states. Gregory Jerome Cree is an Indian male, 37 years old. He stands 5 feet 4 inches tall, has brown eyes, black hair, and weighs 130 pounds. Cree is wanted by the King County Sheriff's Office for probation violation on child molestation conviction, and by the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office for failing to register as a sex offender. There is no bail allowed on the King County warrant, and he's extraditable from within Washington State. The Snohomish warrant's bail is $20,000, and he is extraditable from all western states.
We hope you enjoyed the show, and as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next month on Beyond the Badge.
began to walk across Westlake Mall when we were arrested and dragged off. I had my glasses taken. I did not see them until I was released 54 hours later. I had 50 hours with no phone call. I had 14 hours with no food. I had the first 13 hours I was in handcuffs and leg cuffs. And depending on which guard you could talk to, you either had them loosened or did not have them loosened. I'm a man living with AIDS. I need my medicine every 12 hours. I feel like my life was put at risk. I know my life was put at risk, but every life inside of there was put at risk by the violation of human rights that went on in this city. I am angry. I demand reparation, and I don't care how much money is involved. I won't take a penny of it, but boy, we can fit it back into this movement in a hurry. I have two more things. I see time is up, but I'm tired of hearing the press say anarchist this and anarchist that. I'm a 50-year-old person who does not know how wonderful our youth are until I'm stuck with them. There are some violent anarchists, but some of the best pacifist Gandhian people I have ever met were people that I met, and they are the most focused people hoping for a wonderful future. So that term, when I hear that on the press, still constantly, our two newspapers are the worst press I've read in America since this has happened.
Thank you, Paul.
I could go, I need to say one more thing. I know I'm over my time, but I have names of people. This is what happened to me, and I think you all need to hear it because nobody has spoken from the jail. I'm shaking. Okay, we held down one room for 14 hours. Our lawyer finally, they kept saying, they lied. Everything they tell us is lie. They play one against another. One is taken out, beaten, brought back in, or not brought back in, so he's in isolation. Okay, 14 hours later, our lawyer is finally allowed to come in. When she came in, she brought a new captain that had just come on shift, a very nice-looking 35-year-old woman. And I know her name, and that will come out later. She said, the captain guarantees me that there will be no more physical violence. Is that true, Captain? Yes, that's absolutely true. The captain guarantees me that you have a right to remain in this room. You will not be moved until I come back in. I have 3 buses outside that have not been able to go to the bathroom for 14 hours. Give me 50 minutes. Captain, is that fine? That's absolutely fine. I guarantee it. The lawyer, Katja, walked out the door of the building. The young guards that had been with us all day got a whistle and said, guys, leave. The minute those men walked out, they came in with the beaten sticks. In protection, because we'd been beaten before, we built one in front of the other ring of handcuffed arms around each other, with some of us in the middle. They tackled us and kept saying, get your arms apart, get your arms apart. They had handcuffed us, but we were pulled and pulled and pulled. This is America.
Paul,
I know.
we want it in writing because people
You'll
want to
have
be
it in
investigated.
writing, but the people
Yes.
here might
Thank
not
you.
hear it in writing. In the next room, I watched kids hung by their dreadlocks and waved back and forth. What they do is they lean you on the floor, lift your arm as high as they can in back of your head, and then twist the 3 fingers in ways that they can't go. I still don't have feeling in these 2. This is America. And we cannot let this continue. And the other thing I need to say is, we've talked about Stamper. It seems to me in the press that I've heard Reichert, who has got no bad press, say that Stamper did not use enough force. He is head of our county police. He is the man that is saying, get rid of Stamper because he didn't use force. This guy wants to assassinate all of us. Think about that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I talked so long.
Is Isabel here? Isabel? Are you Isabel? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I became an American citizen 2 weeks ago. And I had to become an American citizen to learn about the Constitution. And I had to swear that I believed in the Constitution. What brought me to Seattle, I live in Olympia. What brought me to Seattle was the news that I heard during last week. The first one was the curfew and the removal of the right to peaceably assemble. The other one also was all of a sudden the right to wear a gas mask was removed. In the Constitution, I have the right to bear arm. Bearing arm, an arm is not necessarily something to attack, it's to protect yourself. And the gas mask, as far as I am concerned, it's my protection and it's my weapon. It's a pacifist weapon. I would like to know what is happening to those who were arrested with a gas mask. Do they have to pay a $500 fine, which apparently the news said they would have to pay? I also have stayed then in front of the prison for 2 days, waiting for the prisoner to come out. I have seen some women, I slept under the tarps. The group support that I have experienced during those 2 days in front of the county jail really made me proud to be an American. But the jail in front of, I wish I slept. And I kept looking at that jail. You don't see any things through the windows. You don't enter. There was a mother parents trying to figure out what was happening to their children. No one could say. I saw the children coming out with their nose bruised. A woman her head has been smashed down on the ground in the jail. It's a woman. I have seen another young man with his eyebrow cut up, his glasses broken. And all of that violence happened in the jail. And I will finish with a quote from Clinton, which was after the shooting of the Columbine High School. And he said that we ought to teach our children to use words versus bombs and guns. And I think our children know that. We don't. We use bombs and guns. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Forrest. 110 is Forrest here. Is Jane, are you Forrest? Excuse me. Jane, Allie, Bruce Crowley. Sir, you are? Ali. Are you Forrest or Jane? Okay, then we'll hear from Jane, and then we'll hear from Allie. Because I didn't see Forrest. So Jane and then Allie. Excuse me, sir.
I'm Jane W. Doe. Yeah, that's it. Upon the arrival of the WTO in Seattle, I had really figured only to be marching on one last day, Tuesday, November 30th. And after all the main marches had converged and the main labor march had turned around and headed back north, there were still thousands of us in the streets who felt more of a message to stop these criminal proceedings entirely still needed to be sent. Yeah. After demonstrating in front of the Paramount for a while, a group of us made our way over to 6 between Pine and Pike. A few people did come through, and without hurting anyone, blew out a few corporate windows, okay? And I'll be honest with you, when I think of violence, I think of the violence of mass starvation, mass land theft, mass joblessness, and mass homelessness that has meted out to people in oppressed countries and oppressed communities in this country by the capitalist system 24/7. That's what I think of when I think of violence. Well, it looks like I rambled off subject. I've been told I do that. Now, these people were long gone when a tank rolled in from the east to the corner of 6th and Pike, and without warning, lobbed several tear gas canisters at us. This is a fairly narrow block, so the effects were immediate and overwhelming. So between the stampede of people running and the inability to suck in sufficient oxygen, I thought I was going to die. Okay, this process was pretty much repeated until people had been driven as far west as 2nd and north to Lenora. And all this began at 5 p.m., which is well before even any kind of a curfew had been forewarned or announced. Okay, I live on Capitol Hill, so I go up to Capitol Hill, and guess what? Tear gassing's going on up there, too. You know, you try and get out of downtown, and you go to where you live, and it's happening where you live. Okay, now thoroughly outraged by all this, even though I was scared, I decided to protest again on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I was gassed on 2nd, and before we marched away from the rally led from the steelworkers. Okay, I'm not going to go on more with what happened, but the fact is that later that night, I experienced flu symptoms. I had just gotten over flu 2 weeks earlier, so I knew that I should have been done with this for about a year. And I still have major congestion in my lungs and my vocal cords are seriously impaired. And if this doesn't clear up, I'm going to have to see a doctor. Okay, I think the gassings and the other brutal attacks, which are, by the way, just a taste.
Being carried off by their friends. Now this was before windows were broken. This is before anything started to turn ugly. I believe that it only took about half an hour for the entire protest to hear about these incidents, and everything escalated after that. Because 10 minutes later, the University Street thing happened. I could see the tear gas off in the distance. You know, within half an hour, everyone knew, and everything escalated. All of a sudden, windows started to get broken. All of a sudden, people started to get more aggressive in the streets. All of a sudden, people started to throw bottles and get really angry at the cops. You know, when you treat somebody with violence, what the hell do you expect to get in return? What do you expect to get in return? What I personally believe is that the city leadership should have just accepted the fact that they were completely overwhelmed with the protests and that they were not going to be able to keep the conference open. They should not have resorted to police violence to try to get the conference open, because after they secured that intersection, they let about 15 delegates through the intersection.
Unfortunately, 3 minutes does not give me enough time to even tell you the horror stories I can tell you.
That's why we want written
Right on.
testimony. That's why we're having another hearing.
Absolutely. One story has to be told because I don't think this girl is still able to talk. While being held at Sandpoint, the bus after us, they were all dragged into Sandpoint, their arms tied behind their back. Some of the people were kicking and screaming. They still had pepper spray on their face up to 15, 20 minutes laying on the floor. No one was helping them. This one girl, they grabbed her by the hair, lifted her head up. She screamed as they were spraying her. As a result, they sprayed it directly down her throat. As of that, only 79% of her lungs were working. She spent a day and a half in the medic unit. Like I said, I can't at this point even process anything else. Just thank you for listening to us, and hopefully you guys do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is Frank here? Frank Cavender? Is Frank here?
Orun Hubbard, number 130, Orun. Solomon Irat, 131. So now I think we've got, excuse me, you are 130. So, and you are 131? Okay. Let's hear from 131 and at 130 and then 131, please.
Good evening. I'm a graduate student at the University of Washington. I'm also one of the Seattle 600. And on Tuesday morning, I went down to downtown Seattle to show my support for democracy and the Constitution. Moreover, I oppose the WTO based primarily on sovereignty issues as well as transparency, the lack of transparency of that organization. At that point, I had made a decision not to get arrested. I was housing 5 people, a student from Nepal, someone from England, and a number of people who had come up from San Francisco. However, during that day, I was not arrested on Tuesday. I was beaten a couple of times. One case, I was jabbed in the back, and that picture is actually in the Seattle Times. So based on the beatings that I received on Tuesday, I felt like even though I had a lot of work to do at school, that maybe I should go down and look and see what's going on. On Wednesday, I did. Again, I did not get arrested. I was only down there for a short time. I saw the type of brutality and arrests that were occurring, and I decided to go back to work. However, on Thursday, I went down in the evening time to show solidarity for the people who had been arrested. I was arrested that evening. I feel that I'm a political prisoner because I was arrested for having a sign. I was riding my bicycle in traffic. I had my sign up, trying to get out of the neighborhood there after that protest. As a single person on a bicycle, I was gang tackled, broadsided, arrested, denied rights, in jail. I saw beatings. Like the gentleman over here mentioned, I saw someone beaten in jail. I received threats. I sat for 7.5 hours in a room that was about 45 to 50 degrees with a t-shirt and my pants on, asking to leave, asking for a blanket, asking for more clothes. All that was denied. What I'd like to say now is Also, I was denied a lawyer. I didn't get a chance to see a lawyer until right 2 minutes before my arraignment. That was about 30 hours after I was incarcerated. So what I'm asking for now is I'd like the city council members and to consider in the future to impose a number of different issues. The first being an independent citizen review of the police department. Moreover, I'd like an apology and/or resignation by the mayor and council members. I'd like to have all the charges against the protesters dismissed. I'm asking for a proclamation in support of the First Amendment throughout Seattle, both today, yesterday, last week, and for eternity. And moreover, I'd like to know what the cost of the kidnapping of the political prisoners was, as well as the costs that are going to be imposed in processing and in prosecuting those political prisoners.
131 is Solomon, then we'll hear 132 is Greg Vinson, 133 is John Marshall, 134 is Dan Merkel.
My name is Solomon Arrow. I'm from Linwood. I am a peaceful scapegoat with 5 charges against me. I didn't even directly witness violence or disobedience, and I have a haiku to try to make this, it was originally to try to make this lighter, but I'm going to read a sad variation of it. Fuse, spray, smash, crowds gassed, peaceful singers jailed next day. Reason says, drop case. My story is, Wednesday around 9 a.m., I was at the west end of Westlake Center on the sidewalk. I and other pro-democracy singers had not crossed police lines to get there. We'd walked away from them. There was no order to disperse. We were surrounded by police. There were no signs to leave. I knew of no alleged unconstitutional no protest zone. I asked someone apparently from Channel 7 with a cell phone if there was any order we shouldn't be there. Even she didn't know. 21 women and 44 men were handcuffed and put on a bus, including me, as we sang My Country 'Tis of Thee and other songs. I was held for 45 hours. Others held longer. Now, the city prosecutor is turning our court into a kangaroo court by bringing 5 charges against me and many against others. Failure to disperse, pedestrian interference, obstructing a public officer, and 2 counts of failure to obey emergency order. Have the charges against all arrested dropped and apologize. If Sidran won't do it, have him removed. That's a way to start healing our human rights. Even more pressing than my particular case is what kind of society allows its police to have instruments of chemical warfare and torture and has no citizen supervision of police? A police state. Wednesday evening in Kent, the jailers in a holding cell next to me were taking out prisoners, putting them in restraint chairs and spraying pepper gel in their faces. I couldn't directly witness it because I had my glasses taken away. Otherwise, I could have been injured with my glasses on. But people in the cell directly witnessed it. And don't deny that these things happened, because just because you don't understand why something this awful would happen, don't deny the facts.
Thank you. Is Greg Vinson here? Is Greg here? You are Greg. Greg will be followed by John Marshall, then Dan Merkel.
You people are amazing. I'm overwhelmed with the events of the past week, and so many different feelings about it. How you doing? I think this council needs to respond to some of the stuff that's...
Some of our buildings were boarded up either because of broken windows or fear of broken windows. The city did give us free parking and free buses and a festival, though, to help us come back. Many of our small business owners also live on Capitol Hill. So far, none of them have told me that they're involved in the activity. We all believe in freedom of speech, but not in random or planned disrespect of other people's rights and other people's property. But as you leave here, please come up to Capitol Hill and have your supper and shop. Thank you.
Okay, our next panelist will be Ken Shulman, Commissioner, Seattle Commission on Sexual Minorities.
Can you hear? I was asked specifically to address my personal experiences on North Capitol Hill last Wednesday night, a week ago tonight, and I'm going to limit my comments to that. I'll leave that to the people running the sound. My name is Ken Shulman. I'm a commissioner for the City of Seattle, appointed by Mayor Schell and first appointed by Mayor Rice. I serve on the city's Commission for Sexual Minorities, and in that role, I've enjoyed a productive and collegial working relationship with Seattle Police Chief Norm Stamper. We have collaborated successfully on several projects that I've brought to his attention. These included efforts to prevent anti-gay harassment, to improve hate crime response by the police, and to increase workplace safety for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered officers in the police department. Chief Stamper has an unusually enlightened understanding of sexual minority civil rights, and he has translated that understanding into his official conduct on many occasions. For personal reasons, I chose not to be involved in World Trade Organization activities last week, either inside the meetings nor as a demonstrator in the street, although I am very politically active. In the context of my personal relationship and respect for Chief Stamper, it is particularly painful for me to recount to you what happened to me last week. The following are excerpts from a description I wrote for my commission colleagues, city commission colleagues, the next day on December 2nd. Last night, I was tear gassed by the Seattle police in my own neighborhood while eating dinner with a friend in a restaurant. This occurred at Mercer Street and Broadway at about 9 p.m. The streets were quiet. There was no demonstration of any kind within sight or sound. The tear gassing was unprovoked and unannounced. It was outrageous police misconduct. As I write this 20 hours later, my throat, lungs, and eyes still burn. After finishing my meal, I was trapped inside the India Express for an hour while police amassed outside.